It's 1:30, the coffee cutoff is 3 o'clock, so it needs to be done by then. Let's have a little coffee break together. Now that we have our coffee, let's get into it because I'm actually very motivated by this conversation today. I was listening to an amazing podcast this morning. I love the Nick Bear podcast, you guys already know this, but I was listening to his episode way back with Jeff Cunningham and it was absolute perfection. Definitely go listen, but it fired off so many different ideas in my head that I actually had to write it all down. I wanted to make sure our discussion today was actually productive, so let's get into the coffee chat, shall we? Based on the speed at which I'm talking, I probably don't need the extra caffeine. Should have gone decaf, but didn't, but it's fine. Anyways, we're talking about hustle culture. Now, the baseline of hustle culture, don't know really when it started, but I feel like it kind of popped off when everyone started showing their life on social media. And it was like, look how much harder I work than you and how much more successful I can be if I just grind 7 days a week, 24/7. And it's this unachievable, well, I think unachievable. Some people are built differently than others. We all have different thresholds. This impacts like several areas of our life. This isn't just about work and working and grinding, if you will, or whatever goal you have in mind, but it's about life in general and how we have to have the humility to accept that you can't grind all the time. It just doesn't work. And in this podcast, it's literally Nick Bear, who's a hybrid athlete and has an entire very successful business about pushing your body to its limits, and Jeff Cunningham, who's a very successful lawyer and running coach for some of the most elite runners in the nation. These two men you think would be the ones to drive hustle culture, to tell you, keep grinding, keep going, dig in, dig in, dig. No. Both of them in this conversation look at each other and go, no, it's important to have rest days. It's important to go slow. It's important to have active recovery. Like, those things are there on purpose. You cannot grind all the time or you literally will grind yourself into the ground. And this brought up so many different ideas for me. The first one I want to touch on is balancing effort and understanding. The effort in which you want to put into something, the goal that you have, recognizing you have to work for it. It's not just going to come on its own. It's not just going to magically appear. Yes, I do believe miracles can happen, but when it comes to your everyday goal, you have to put in some effort. That's just the reality of life, but balancing that with understanding where you are, who you are, what's happening. It so happened that I listened to that podcast during my morning workout, and my family lives 3 hours behind me, my parents and siblings. They live 2 hours behind me. Dad gets up to do his morning workout. After his morning workout, he goes and does this little quiet time reading session. It's adorable and I love it so much, but he sends me an Instagram reel, and I'm like, Dad, typically my father sends me what your typical father does, okay, politically charged, the dad jokes, whatever, what have you. But today my father sent me a very interesting TikTok that was a prayer for his daughter's success, a prayer for his daughter's ambition. And a quote that stood out to me so much that I've been thinking about it all day was balancing ambition and humility. It's what we have to do with hustle culture. You cannot be so prideful to think that you don't need rest. You also cannot be so prideful to think that you can't and shouldn't put in effort or have ambition. My favorite book is by C.J. Mahoney. It's called Humility, and it has an entire chapter devoted to how sleep is literally designed to remind us of how we're fragile and futile creatures that literally require rest. The most vulnerable state of being, sleep, to continue. Another one of my favorite creative things right now, the entire album from Forrest Frank, but specifically the song Even God Takes Breaks. Can you hear that? Like, when we look at the Bible, God that created the entire universe showed us what it looks like to rest. And over again in scripture, it's this balance of work and rest. Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. Proverbs 16:3, commit your works to the Lord. And Hebrews 4:9, there remains a Sabbath. Exodus 34:21, 6 days you'll work and on the 7th day you'll rest. To have the humility to go, I can rest, I need rest, at the same time have the ambition to chase being better. And if all you take away from today's little coffee chat is it's important to rest, it's important to have goals, but in the little steps towards your goal, finding time to rest, I'm content. And today was really kind of a little rant. I think I rant more to myself because I definitely fall on this line of grinding too hard and thinking that I don't deserve rest, when in reality, that's my pride and fear talking, and I actually need rest in order to be successful. So cheers, I hope you enjoy the rest of your coffee break, and I will see you in just a couple days.